Welcome to Sci-Fi Vault of Tales. Like the video and subscribe to journey further.
The Orion's belt station buzzed with chaotic energy, a sprawling cosmic bazaar orbiting a neutron star that pulsed with eerie plasma music. Neon lights bathed the narrow alleys in vibrant hues, casting shadows over stalls piled with exotic goods. The air carried the sharp tang of Zlorgian spices, mingling with the hiss of automated grills and the thumping beat of synthwave from distant speakers. Max Carter, a rugged delivery guy with a worn leather jacket and tousled black hair, navigated the crowd with practiced ease. His boots clacked against the metal floor, each step confident despite the chaos. Once a star engineer for the Alliance fleet, Max had been demoted for refusing to deliver weapons to an invasive force. Now, he thrived in the galaxy's gray zones, hauling cargo for those willing to pay. Max stopped at a human-run food stall, a rare slice of Earth amid the alien madness. A three-armed robot with a voice like Elvis Presley manned the counter, flipping patties with mechanical flair. "One classic burger, extra cheese," Max said, sliding a credit chip across the counter. The robot winked, its optic sensors glinting, and handed over a steaming bun stuffed with a sizzling beef patty, dripping with melted cheddar. The scent hit Max like a memory, pulling him back to roadside diners in Texas. He found a quiet spot by a glowing fountain, its water shimmering with bioluminescent algae, and settled against the railing to savor his meal. Halfway through his first bite, Max noticed her. She stood out like a supernova in the crowded market, a Vynari warrior. Her silver skin gleamed like liquid metal under the neon glow. Her violet eyes, bright as LED panels, scanned the throng with predatory focus. Green hair floated around her head, defying gravity, and her sleek armor, etched with glowing patterns, hugged her athletic frame. She moved with lethal grace, every step deliberate, like a panther stalking prey. Max froze, burger halfway to his mouth, as her gaze locked onto him. No, not him. His burger. Her eyes betrayed a raw, desperate hunger. Max, never one to ignore a gut instinct, raised the burger slightly. "Hey, want a bite? Earth's finest." The Vynari woman hesitated, her pointed ears twitching. The crowd parted instinctively as she approached, her movements fluid yet cautious. Up close, Max saw intricate swirls on her skin, like cosmic barcodes, and a faint scar tracing her cheek. She sniffed the burger, nostrils flaring, then took it with clawed fingers. Her first bite was tentative, but her reaction was explosive. Her violet eyes widened, pupils dilating to glowing orbs. The patterns on her skin flared red, then blue, pulsing wildly. A low hum, like a starship engine, rumbled from her throat. The fountain nearby flickered, its lights dimming as sparks danced around her. Max stepped back, heart racing. "Whoa, you okay?" he asked, half expecting her to collapse. Instead, she straightened, taller and fiercer, her armor glowing brighter. "You have activated me," she declared, her voice resonant, like a blade cutting through static. "I am Sylara, of the Vynari. You shared the sacred energy. I am now your guardian." Max blinked, burger still in hand. "It's just a hamburger," he muttered, baffled. Silara's eyes narrowed, as if he'd insulted her. "This is no mere food. It holds the Vyn Crystal, a catalyst of my people. You are my guide now. I protect you." Max glanced at the burger, wondering what the hell was in it. The robot vendor had mentioned special spices, but this? He needed answers, and fast. The crowd was starting to stare, and Silara's glowing skin wasn't exactly subtle. "Look, Sylara," Max said, keeping his tone calm. "Let's figure this out somewhere less public." He gestured toward a quieter alley, but Sylara stepped closer, her presence intense. A passing merchant bumped into Max, and Sylara let out a sharp electric hiss, sparks crackling from her fingertips. The merchant yelped and scurried away. Max sighed. This was going to be complicated. What was this Vyn Crystal? Why did a burger turn this alien into a glowing bodyguard? And how was Max, a guy just trying to eat lunch, now stuck with a warrior who looked ready to fry anyone who got too close? The narrow alleys of Orion's belt station thrummed with life. a chaotic maze of vendors hawking glowing trinkets and aliens bartering in a dozen tongues. Max Carter weaved through the crowd, his leather jacket brushing against scaled shoulders and feathered limbs. The neon glow of the station's overhead panels cast flickering shadows, amplifying the surreal hum of the neutron star's plasma music outside. Sylara, the Vynari warrior with silver skin and violet eyes, trailed close, behind her presence like a live wire. Every few steps, her swirling patterns pulsed faintly, and tiny sparks crackled from her fingertips. Max could feel the stares of passers-by, drawn to her glowing aura. This was not the low profile he preferred. "Slow down, Sparkplug," Max said, glancing back at Sylara. "You're drawing a crowd." She tilted her head, her green hair floating like a halo. "I protect my guide," she replied, her voice sharp yet melodic, like a tuned engine. A reptilian merchant, his scales glinting gold, stepped too close, offering a tray of bioluminescent fruit. Sylara's eyes narrowed, and a low electric hiss escaped her throat. Sparks danced across her claws, and the merchant yelped, dropping his tray as he bolted. Max groaned. "Okay, that's gotta stop." "You can't zap everyone who gets near me." Sylara's ears twitched, confusion flickering in her violet gaze. "They could be threats. My duty is clear." Max rubbed his temples, the half-eaten burger still clutched in his other hand. Whatever was in that thing, Vyn Crystal, she'd called it, had turned his lunch break into a sci-fi sitcom. He needed answers before Sylara fried someone important. "Come on," he said, steering her toward a quieter corner of the market. "We're hitting the translation kiosk. I need to know what I'm dealing with." The kiosk, tucked between a spice stall and a drone repair shop, was run by a wiry Zlorgian with 6 blinking eyes. Its voice buzzed like static as it handed Max a silver disc. "Universal translator, Vynari dialect included. Stick it behind your ear." Max paid the steep fee, wincing at the dent in his credits, and pressed the disc to his skin. A faint tingle spread across his scalp. "Can you understand me now?" he asked Sylara. Her ears perked up and she nodded. "Your words are clear, guide. The technology of your kind is adequate." Max snorted. "Thanks for the vote of confidence. Now, what's this Vyn Crystal deal? And why are you my bodyguard?" Sylara straightened, her armor glowing faintly. "The Vyn Crystal is a forbidden catalyst, harvested from ancient Vynari beasts. It was outlawed for creating unstable warriors. Your food contained it, awakening my sealed genes. By our law, sharing such energy binds me to you. I guard you until the debt is repaid." Max stared at his burger, its cheese now cold. "So, I fed you a banned super soldier spice? Great." He pressed further, sensing there was more. "Why are you here, Sylara? Alone, in this chaos?" Her gaze flickered, a shadow crossing her fierce expression. "I was exiled," she said, her voice low. "I refused to slaughter a colony of innocents under orders from Varkis, a general of my people. He betrayed me, stripped my rank. I came to Orion's belt seeking purpose." Max felt a pang of recognition. He knew what it was like to lose everything for doing the right thing. Before he could respond, his comm buzzed with a new message. A job offer flashed on the screen. Transport a high-value energy core to Saturn Colony. Payment triple his usual rate. The deal screamed trouble, but the credits were too good to pass up. "We've got work," he told Sylara, pocketing the device. "But you need to chill with the sparks. I can't have you zapping clients." She frowned, her patterns pulsing. "I will protect you, guide. Threats will be neutralized." Max sighed, leading her toward the docking bay. A human woman approached, smiling, clearly about to ask for directions. Sylara stepped forward, a sharp crackle of electricity arcing between her fingers. The woman yelped and bolted. "Seriously?" Max said, exasperated. "She was harmless." Sylara tilted her head, unapologetic. "I sensed intent." Max threw up his hands. "We need ground rules, or this is going to be a long day. What was this energy core, and why was the payout so high? Was Sylara's exile connected to this? Mysterious Varkis? And how was Max supposed to keep a glowing, spark-throwing warrior from turning his next job into a galactic incident? The docking bay of Orion's belt station hummed with the low rumble of starship engines. a cavernous space lit by flickering sodium lights. Max Carter led the way, his leather jacket catching the glint of overhead panels as he approached the Midnight Runner. The ship, a sleek relic from a forgotten war, bore scars of battles long past, its hull etched with faint Zlorgian runes that whispered of its legendary status. Sylara followed close, her silver skin pulsing faintly, violet eyes scanning every corner. Her green hair floated in the low gravity, and the occasional spark from her fingertips made nearby dock workers jump. Max shot her a look. "Keep the light show under control, Sparkplug. We're trying to stay low-key." Sylara tilted her head, her armor glowing softly. "I sense no threats here, guide, but I remain vigilant." Max sighed, punching the access code into the Midnight Runner's ramp. The ship's AI, a gravelly-voiced relic with a penchant for classic rock, greeted them with a burst of AC/DC's Highway to Hell through the internal speakers. "Welcome aboard, Carter," it drawled, sounding like a biker from a dive bar. "Who's the glowing lady?" Max smirked. "Long story, Rocker. Prep for launch. We've got a job." Inside, the ship's bridge was a cluttered mix of high-tech consoles and personal touches, a faded Star Wars poster, a coffee mug shaped like a rocket Pokemon, and a small potted cactus that somehow survived Max's neglect. Max settled into the pilot's chair, fingers flying over the controls. Sylara stood nearby, inspecting a vent in the ceiling. "This is a vulnerability," she said, her voice sharp. "An enemy could infiltrate through here." Before Max could respond, she reached up, and a spark leapt from her hand, shorting out the overhead lights with a loud pop. Darkness engulfed the bridge, save for her glowing skin. "Seriously?" Max groaned, grabbing a flashlight from under the console. "You just fried my lighting system." Sylara's ears twitched, unapologetic. It was a potential threat. Max muttered under his breath, rerouting power to backup lights. The bridge flickered back to life, casting a soft glow on Sylara's silver frame. "No more zapping my ship, okay? This thing's older than my grandpa." As the Midnight Runner powered up, Max felt the weight of the new job, transporting an energy core to Saturn Colony for triple his usual rate. The deal smelled like trouble, but he needed the credits. Sylara sat in the co-pilot's seat, her eyes locked on the flickering starfield display. "Your vessel is storied," she said, noting the runes on the bulkhead. "It has seen battle." Max nodded, his expression tightening. "Yeah, it's got history. So do I." Curiosity flickered in Sylara's violet gaze. "You are more than a courier guide. What is your story?" Max hesitated, his hands pausing on the controls. "I was an engineer with the Alliance fleet," he said, his voice low. "Built defense systems for starships. But I got canned for refusing to deliver weapons to a campaign that was slaughtering colonies. Been running cargo ever since, staying under the radar." Sylara's patterns pulsed slowly, a sign of understanding. "I too was cast out," she said. "Varkis, a general of my people, ordered me to destroy a defenseless colony. I refused. He betrayed me, stripped my rank. I fled to Orion's belt to find purpose." Max felt a spark of connection. Two outcasts bound by defiance. "Sounds like we both pissed off the wrong people," he said, offering a half-smile. Sylara's eyes met his, intense and unyielding. "Varkis is no mere general now. He seeks power, a new empire. He is dangerous." Before Max could press her further, the ship's sensors blared a warning. Two blips appeared on the radar, closing, fast. "Incoming ships," Max said, gripping the controls. "Pirates or bounty hunters. Either way, they're not friendly." Sylara leaned forward, her claws flexing. "Shall I engage the weapons?" Max shook his head, heart racing. "Not yet. Let's see if we can outrun them." The Midnight Runner roared to life, rocker cranking up back in black as the ship accelerated. Max's mind spun. Who were these pursuers? Was this about the energy core? Or something tied to Sylara's past with Varkis? What did Varkis want? And how was he connected to this job? Why were armed ships chasing them so soon after leaving the station? And could Max keep Sylara from frying his ship? Before they reached Saturn Colony, the Midnight Runner sliced through the void, its engines humming as it wove between jagged asteroids in the Orion Belt's outer ring. The ship's view screen displayed a chaotic field of spinning rocks, some glowing faintly from embedded crystals. Max Carter gripped the controls, his eyes darting between the radar and the starfield ahead. Two bounty hunter ships trailed close, their sleek hulls glinting under distant starlight. Sylara sat rigid in the co-pilot's seat, her silver skin pulsing with faint blue light, claws tapping the console. The ship's AI, Rocker, kept the mood lively with a low thrum of Metallica's Enter Sandman blasting through the speakers. "We've got company, Carter," Rocker drawled. "Want me to arm the turrets?" "Not yet," Max said, jaw tight. "We're ducking into that old mining outpost up ahead. Maybe we can lose them." He pointed to a crumbling station carved into a massive asteroid, its rusted scaffolds barely visible against the rock. Sylara's violet eyes narrowed. "A confined space is dangerous, guide. Ambush is likely." Max shot her a grin, trying to mask his nerves. "That's why I've got you, Sparkplug. Keep those senses sharp." The Midnight Runner slipped into the outpost's docking bay, a cavernous hollow littered with broken machinery and flickering emergency lights. Max powered down non-essential systems, hoping to blend into the station's background noise. Grabbed the energy core, a palm-sized orb glowing faintly green from a secure locker. "This thing's worth triple my rate," he muttered, turning it over in his hands. "Gotta make sure it's not rigged to blow us up." Sylara sniffed. The air, her ears twitching. "I smell chemicals, explosives. We are not alone." Before Max could respond, a shadow moved in the darkness. 3 figures emerged from behind a rusted crane, hulking mercenaries in patched armor, their weapons glinting with plasma tips. Sylara sprang to her feet, her patterns flaring red. "Threats!" she hissed, electricity crackling around her. "Claws." The lead mercenary, a scarred human with a cybernetic eye, smirked. "Hand over the core, Carter, or we carve it out of you." Max raised his hands, stalling. "Easy, pal. Let's talk credits." Sylara had other ideas. She lunged, faster than Max could blink, her claws slicing through the air. A burst of blue lightning arced from her hands, striking the first mercenary. He convulsed, his weapon clattering to the ground. The second charged, but Sylara spun, slamming him into a wall with a crack of electrified force. The third raised his rifle, only for Sylara to grab it, her touch frying its circuits. In seconds, all 3 were down, twitching in the dim light. Max stared, heart pounding. "Damn, Sparkplug. Remind me not to piss you off." Sylara's chest heaved, her patterns dimming slightly. "They were sent to kill you, guide. The core is their target." Max knelt by the lead mercenary, prying a data chip from his belt. He plugged it into his wristcom, scanning the contents. "Orders from someone called Varkas," he said, frowning. "Says the core's part of a weapon, something big enough to crack a planet." Sylara's eyes widened, a shadow crossing her face. "Varkas," she whispered, her voice heavy with pain. "He seeks to rebuild the Vynari Empire. This is his doing." Max's stomach twisted. This wasn't just a shady job, it was a setup. He moved to check the core, but Sylara grabbed his arm, her grip firm but trembling. "Wait," she said. "I sense more danger." She pointed to a pile of debris nearby where a faint red light blinked. Max cursed, recognizing a plasma mine. "Move," he shouted, diving for cover as Sylara tackled him behind a crate. The mine detonated, shaking, the outpost and triggering an old mining drone, its massive drill whirred to life, lurching toward them. Max scrambled to a nearby control panel, his fingers flying over the keys. "I can shut this thing down," he said, sweat beading on his brow. His old engineering skills kicked in, rerouting the drone's power grid. The machine sputtered, then collapsed in a heap of sparks. Sylara watched, her expression shifting to respect. "You are skilled, guide," she said. Max wiped his brow, grinning weakly. "Yeah, well, I didn't survive. This long by luck." But Sylara's gaze was distant, haunted by Varkas's name. What was his plan for this weapon? How deep did this trap go, and why was Sylara so shaken by her old general? Who was Varkas really after? Max, Sylara, or the core? What kind of weapon could crack a planet? And could they escape this outpost before more mercenaries showed up? The Midnight Runner's bridge glowed faintly, its backup lights casting long shadows across the cluttered consoles. The ship drifted through the asteroid field, engines on low to avoid detection after the skirmish at the mining outpost. Max. Carter slouched in the pilot's chair, his leather jacket draped over the backrest, fingers tapping the armrest. The energy core sat in a secure locker, its faint green glow pulsing like a heartbeat. Sylara stood near the view screen, her silver skin dimmer than usual, her green hair floating listlessly. The air felt heavy, charged with unspoken tension. The ship's AI rocker had mercifully switched to a softer track, Pink Floyd's Wish. "You were here," strumming through the speakers. Max glanced at Sylara, her violet eyes fixed on the starfield. The fight at the outpost had shaken her, not physically but deeper, where old wounds lingered. Her mention of Varkas, the Vynari general who betrayed her, hung like a ghost between them. Max wanted to ask more, but the memory of her frying those mercenaries and nearly triggering a catastrophic explosion gnawed at him. She was powerful, sure, but unstable. What if she lost control again? "Sylara," Max said, keeping his tone even. "You okay? You went full lightning storm back there." She turned, her patterns flickering faintly. "I protected you, guide. My duty was fulfilled." Her voice was steady, but her claws twitched, betraying unease. Max leaned forward, elbows on his knees.
"Yeah, but you almost fried the whole outpost, and my ship's lights are still glitchy from your last spark show." Sylara's ears flattened, a rare sign of vulnerability.
"The Vyn Crystal amplifies my strength, but it is unpredictable. I am learning to control it." Her words were measured, but Max caught the strain. He stood, pacing the bridge, his boots scuffing the metal floor. "Look, Sparkplug, you're tough as hell, but if you short-circuit at the wrong time, we're both toast. I need to know you've got this." Before she could respond, a sharp crackle erupted from her hands. A bolt of blue electricity arced across the bridge, striking the navigation console. Sparks flew, and the view screen flickered, plunging the bridge into near darkness. "Damn it," Max shouted, diving for the emergency panel. He rerouted power, his old engineering skills kicking in, and the lights sputtered back on. Sylara stood frozen, her patterns dim, eyes wide with something close to fear. "I did not mean to," she said, her voice barely audible. Max's heart pounded, not just from the near disaster, but from a creeping doubt. Sylara was a liability. He could ditch her at the next station, hand her some credits, and wash his hands of this mess. The energy core job was risky enough without a walking power surge. He opened his mouth to say something, then stopped. Sylara had curled into the co-pilot's seat, her knees drawn up, her silver skin almost dull. She looked lost. "You ever feel like you're running from something you can't escape?" Max asked, his voice softer now. Sylara's eyes met his, searching. "Every day," she said. "Varkas took my honor, my purpose. I am nothing without a cause." Max nodded, feeling the weight of his own past. "I get it. After the Alliance kicked me out, I thought I'd never find my footing again. Just kept moving, taking jobs, staying one step ahead of regret." He crossed to a small galley nook, pulling out a thermos of coffee. "Here," he said, pouring her a mug. "Earth's finest. No Vyn Crystal, I swear." Sylara took it, sniffing. Cautiously, then sipped. Her ears perked up, a faint smile breaking through. "It is, warm," she said, cradling the mug. Max chuckled, sitting beside her. "We're in this together, Sparkplug. But we need a plan. That core's tied to Varkas, and he's not sending goons for fun. We need intel." Sylara nodded, her patterns steadying. "Club Nebula," she said. "A place of secrets. Varkas's allies gather there. We will find answers." Max grinned, setting a course for the nebula. "All right, let's crash their party. But no zapping the DJ, got it?" The Midnight Runner hummed, stars streaking past. Max felt a flicker of trust forming, but doubts lingered. Could Sylara control her power? Or was she a danger to them both? What secrets waited at Club Nebula? And how deep did Varkas's reach go? Would Max's fragile trust in Sylara hold? Or would her next surge spark a disaster? What did Club Nebula know about Varkus's weapon? And could they uncover the truth before the bounty hunters caught up? Club Nebula shimmered like a fever dream, a sprawling nightlife hub tucked deep within Orion's belt station. Its walls pulsed with bioluminescent algae, casting waves of blue and violet light across a dance floor where gravity seemed optional. Dancers moved in a three-dimensional ballet, their bodies twisting in slow motion as the club's temporal dilation field stretched 5 minutes of dancing into an hour outside. The air thrummed with bass-heavy synthwave, laced with the neutron. Star's eerie plasma hum. Max Carter, dressed in a borrowed black vest that barely fit his broad shoulders, scanned the crowd. Beside him, Sylara stood out despite her disguise, a sleek silver dress that mirrored her skin, her green hair tucked under a hood. Her violet eyes darted, alert for threats. "Stay cool, Sparkplug," Max muttered, adjusting his earpiece translator. "We're here for info, not a fight." Sylara's patterns pulsed faintly beneath her dress. "I sense deception in this place, guide. Be wary." Max nodded, leading her through the throng of aliens and humans, their faces blurred by holographic masks. They were here to meet Rex Malone, a former hacker who traded secrets like currency. If anyone knew about Varkus and the Energy Core, it was him. They found Rex at a private booth, a wiry man with a shaved head and cybernetic tattoos glowing blue along his arms. He sipped a glowing drink, smirking as Max slid into the seat opposite. "Carter, you clean up nice," Rex said, his voice smooth. "Who's the glowing gal?" Sylara stiffened, but Max raised a hand. "She's with me. We need intel on Varkus. Word is he's tied to a weapon, and I'm carrying his cargo." Rex's smirk faded, his eyes flicking to Sylara. "Varkus, huh? That's heavy. He's no general anymore. Calls himself the broker now. Runs a shadow empire. That energy core you've got, it's the heart of a planet killer, a weapon to wipe out Saturn colony and spark his new Vynari dominion." Sylara's claws flexed, her patterns flaring red. "Varkus!" she hissed, her voice low and venomous. "He betrayed me, led my squad to slaughter. This is his vengeance." Max placed a hand on her arm, feeling the heat of her skin. "Easy," he said, his voice steady. "We need details, Rex. Who's he working with?" Rex leaned in, voice dropping. "He's got allies in high places, corrupt alliance officers, rogue Vynari clans. They meet here in the VIP lounge, but watch your back. His goons are everywhere." Sylara's eyes widened, her gaze snapping to the crowd. "I sense them," she said, her voice tight. Max followed her line of sight, spotting 3 figures weaving through the dancers. Tall, armored, with Vynari-like patterns on their gear. "Trouble," he muttered, heart racing. "Keep it chill," Max told Sylara, but her patterns were already glowing brighter. One of the goons locked eyes with her, raising a concealed weapon. Sylara stepped forward, electricity crackling at her fingertips. "No!" Max hissed, grabbing her wrist. "Not here!" He tapped his wrist comm, hacking into the club's lighting system, a trick from his engineering days. The bioluminescent walls flared blindingly, plunging the club into chaos as dancers stumbled and shouted. Max pulled Sylara toward a service exit, Rex vanishing into the crowd. They ducked into a narrow corridor, the music muffled behind them. Sylara's breathing was heavy, her patterns dimming. "I could have ended them," she said, frustration lacing her voice. Max shook his head, checking the corridor for pursuers, and started a riot. "We got what we needed. Varkus wants to nuke Saturn colony and pin it on me. We need to get there first. Find proof." Sylara's eyes met his, haunted by Varkus's name. "He destroyed my life," she said, her voice raw. "I will stop him." Max nodded, feeling the weight of her resolve. "We will," he said, squeezing her shoulder, but his mind raced. Varkus's reach was deeper than he'd feared, and those goons knew they were here. How much did Varkus know about their plan? Could Sylara keep her rage in check, or would it spark a disaster in the club's crowded halls? And what allies did the broker have waiting in the shadows of Club Nebula? Segment 2. Hidden Corridors and Bonds of Trust. 800 words. The service corridors of Orion's belt station were a stark contrast to Club Nebula's dazzling glow, a dimly lit labyrinth of rusted pipes and humming conduits. The air was thick with the tang of coolant and metal, the distant thump of synthwave music barely a murmur through the thick walls. Max Carter moved swiftly, his boots echoing softly on the scuffed metal grating floor. His vest was rumpled, his heart still racing from their close escape from Varkas's goons. Sylara kept pace, her silver dress shimmering faintly in the low light, her green hair now loose and floating like a sign of her agitation. Her violet eyes scanned every shadow, claws flexing, ready for another fight. The weight of Varkas's betrayal clung to her, heavy and raw. "Keep moving, Sparkplug," Max said, checking his wristcom for station security alerts. "Those goons won't give up easy." Sylara's patterns pulsed, a faint crackle of electricity sparking at her fingertips. "Let them come," she said, her voice low and edged with resolve. "Varkas will not escape justice." Max shot her a glance, catching the pain in her gaze. He wanted to keep her focused, but her intensity was a flicker of concern. They slipped into a maintenance alcove, a cramped space cluttered with discarded tools and flickering data pads. Max crouched by a wall vent, listening for pursuers. "We're clear for now," he said, turning to Sylara. "But we need to talk. Back there you were ready to fry those guys. I get it, Varkas is personal. But we can't take on an army in a nightclub." Sylara's ears twitched, her patterns dimming. "You do not know what he did," she said, her voice trembling with restrained fury. "Varkas led my squad into an ambush, sacrificed them to save himself. He branded me a traitor, stripped my honor. I was nothing." Her claws dug into her palms, tiny sparks flickering. Max felt a pang, recognizing the scars of betrayal. He'd been there, cast out by the Alliance for standing his ground. "I hear you," Max said, his tone softening. "But I need to come clean. After the outpost, when you fried my nav console, I thought about ditching you. You're powerful, but you're a wild card. I was scared you'd get us killed." Sylara's eyes widened, a flash of hurt crossing her face. She stepped back, her patterns fading to a dull silver. "You would abandon me?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. Max rubbed the back of his neck, guilt twisting in his chest. "Thought about it, yeah. But I didn't. You're not just some spark-throwing warrior, Sylara. You're fighting for something real. I see that now." He met her gaze, steady and earnest. "I'm all in, Sparkplug. We stop Varkas together." Sylara's ears perked slightly, her patterns flickering back to life. "You trust me, guide?" she asked, searching his face. Max nodded, a half-smile breaking through. "Yeah, I do. But let's keep the zapping to bad guys, deal?" A faint smile tugged at her lips, the first he'd seen. "Deal," she said, her voice warmer. Max pulled out his wristcom, scanning for the Midnight Runner's docking bay. A blinking alert caught his eye. A tracking beacon had been planted on the ship. "Son of a..." he muttered, hacking into the system. His fingers danced over the interface, rerouting the beacon signal to a nearby drone. "Nice try." "Varkas," he said, grinning as the tracker went dark. Sylara watched, her expression shifting to admiration. "Your skills rival a Vynari tactician," she said. Max chuckled. "Just an old fleet trick." To ease the tension, Max pulled a deck of cards from his jacket. "Ever play poker?" he asked, shuffling the deck. Sylara tilted her head, curious. "A game of strategy?" Max grinned, dealing her a hand. "And bluffing. Watch and learn." As he explained the rules, Sylara's claws fumbled with the cards, sparking lightly. They laughed, the moment a brief respite in the storm. But the plan loomed large. "We hit Saturn Colony next," Max said, pocketing the cards. "Find proof of Varkas's weapon, expose him before he fries us." Sylara nodded, her resolve hardening. He will face justice. As they moved toward the docking bay, Max's mind raced. Varkas's goons were close, and the tracker meant he was watching. What proof waited at Saturn Colony? Could Sylara's fragile control hold against her thirst for vengeance? And how many more traps did the broker have set in their path? The Saturn colony floated like a gleaming jewel amidst the swirling gas clouds of the ringed planet, its towering spires of polished titanium reflecting the amber glow of distant storms. Inside the colony's primary energy factory, a vast complex of humming reactors and holographic displays, the air buzzed with the low hum of machinery. Max Carter, disguised in a technician's jumpsuit, moved through the bustling corridors, his wristcom scanning for security feeds. Beside him, Sylara wore a similar outfit, her silver skin concealed under a hooded jacket, though her violet eyes betrayed her tension. The energy core, tucked in a shielded case at Max's side, pulsed faintly, a reminder of the danger they carried. "Stay sharp, spark plug," Max whispered, adjusting his fake ID badge. "We need to find Dr. Elena Voss and figure out what this core's really for." Sylara nodded, her green hair tucked tightly beneath her hood. "I sense unease in this place, guide," she said, her voice low. "Varkus's influence is near." Max felt a chill, knowing the broker's reach extended even here, to one of the Alliance's most secure outposts. They reached the Central Research Lab, a sterile chamber lined with glowing data screens and robotic arms assembling intricate components. Dr. Elena Voss, a wiry woman with gray-streaked hair and sharp eyes, stood at a console, analyzing the energy core's schematics. Max approached, flashing his forged credentials. "Dr. Voss, we're from Orion's Belt Station, here to verify the core's specs," he said, his tone smooth. Voss glanced up, skeptical. "You're early," she said, but waved them over. As Voss explained, Max's worst fears crystallized. "This core powers a prototype weapon," she said, pulling up a hologram of a sleek device. "It could destabilize a planet's core, turning it to dust. We designed it for defense, but someone's been tampering with the project." Silara's patterns flared briefly beneath her jacket. "Varkus," she hissed, her voice barely audible. Voss frowned, catching the word. "Who?" she asked, but before Max could deflect, Silara's ears twitched. "Danger," she said, shoving Max aside. A laser beam scorched the spot where he'd stood, fired from a balcony above. Max dove behind a console, dragging Voss with him. Sylara leapt, her hood falling away, revealing her glowing silver skin. 3 figures in Vynari-style armor emerged, their weapons trained on the lab. "The core now," one barked, his voice distorted by a modulator. Silara's claws crackled with electricity, but Max grabbed her arm. "Not yet," he said, hacking into the lab's security system. He triggered a lockdown, sealing the doors, but the attackers blasted through a vent, closing in. Sylara moved like lightning, tackling the nearest assailant. Her electric surge fried his armor, sending him crashing into a wall. But the second fired a pulse grenade, and Sylara took the blast, shielding Max and Voss. She staggered, her patterns dimming, blood trickling from a gash on her arm. "Sylara!" Max shouted, his heart lurching. He pulled her behind a reactor, his hands shaking as he checked her wound. "I'm fine, guide," she gasped, but her voice was weak. Voss, pale but composed, handed Max a data chip. "This has proof of the tampering," she said. "Varkus's agent is in this facility. Find them." Max nodded, pocketing the chip, but his eyes stayed on Sylara. Her sacrifice hit him hard. She'd taken a hit for him, no hesitation. "You're not dying on me, Sparkplug," he said, his voice rough. He tore a strip from his jumpsuit, binding her wound. Sylara managed a faint smile. "Not today," she said, her claws sparking weakly. The attackers regrouped, their leader shouting orders. Max hacked a nearby robotic arm, swinging it into one, but the others advanced. Sylara struggled to stand, her patterns flickering. "I can fight," she insisted, but Max held her back. "We need you alive," he said, his voice firm. He activated a smoke screen from the lab's safety system, obscuring the room in thick haze. They slipped toward an emergency exit, Voss leading the way. Max supported Sylara, her weight heavy against him. The data chip burned in his pocket, proof of Varkus's treachery within reach. But the enemy was close, and Sylara was fading. Who was Varkus's agent in the factory? Could Sylara survive her injuries to fight another round? And would Max find the proof they needed before the broker's trap closed around them? The central control room of Saturn Colony's energy factory was a chaotic symphony of flashing holographic screens and blaring alarms. Sparks rained from shattered conduits, and the air crackled with the sharp ozone tang of burnt circuitry. Max Carter crouched behind a reinforced console, his jumpsuit torn, sweat stinging his eyes. Sylara slumped beside him, her silver skin dulled, blood seeping through the makeshift bandage on her arm. Her violet eyes flickered with determination, but her breathing was ragged. Dr. Elena Voss, pressed against the console, clutched a data pad, her face pale but resolute. The energy core, still in its shielded case, sat at Max's feet, its green glow pulsing like a taunt. Above them, Varkus's agent, a wiry human technician named Kessler, unmasked as the broker's mole, directed a squad of combat drones. The drones' red optics scanned the room, their plasma rifles humming with lethal charge. Kessler's voice, cold and smug, echoed over the chaos. "Give me the core, Carter, and I'll let you walk. Varkus doesn't care about you, just the weapon." Max gritted his teeth, his wrist palm glowing as he hacked the room's systems. "Yeah, right," he muttered. "You'll fry us the second we move." Sylara stirred, her claws sparking faintly. "I can fight, guide," she whispered, struggling to rise. Max pressed a hand to her shoulder, his voice firm. "Stay down, Sparkplug. You're hurt bad." Her eyes blazed, defiant. "Varkus's puppet will not win." Max nodded, his heart twisting at her stubborn courage. He glanced at Voss, who pointed to a nearby server bank. "Override the weapon's activation there," she hissed. "But you'll need a clear shot." Max scanned the room, spotting a maintenance hatch across the chamber. If he could reach it, he might reroute the drone's targeting. "Cover me," he told Sylara, hating himself for asking. She nodded, her patterns flaring weakly. With a guttural cry, she lunged from cover, electricity arcing from her hands. The drones pivoted, their rifles firing, but Sylara's surge fried too, their circuits popping in showers of sparks. She staggered, collapsing behind a pillar, her patterns nearly dark. Max sprinted, laser bolts scorching the floor behind him. He dove through the hatch, landing hard in a cramped access tunnel. His fingers flew over a control panel, old engineering instincts kicking in. He hacked the drone network, redirecting their targeting to Kessler's position. The drones whirred, turning on their master. Kessler cursed, diving for cover as plasma bolts peppered his console. But Kessler was no amateur. He pulled a detonator from his belt, its red light blinking ominously. "You're too late!" he shouted. "This place goes up in 10 seconds!" Max's blood ran cold. He scrambled back to the control room, grabbing Sylara's arm. "We gotta move!" he yelled, pulling her toward Voss. Sylara stumbled, her strength fading, but her claws dug into his sleeve. "The server!" she gasped. "Stop the weapon!" Max hesitated, torn between saving her and stopping the blast. Voss shoved her datapad into his hands. "Go!" she barked, dragging Sylara toward an emergency pod. Max bolted for the server bank, dodging falling debris. He plugged in the pad, his fingers trembling as he input Voss's override codes. The weapon's activation sequence froze, its countdown halting at 3 seconds. Max exhaled, his knees weak, but Kessler charged, a vibro blade gleaming in his hand. Max ducked, grappling with Kessler in a desperate brawl. The traitor was fast, but Max's training held. He slammed Kessler into a console, pinning his arm until the blade clattered free. With a final shove, Max locked him in a pressure chamber, sealing the door. Kessler pounded the glass, his screams muffled. Max raced to the pod, finding Sylara barely conscious, her patterns faint. Voss held a small injector, its contents glowing blue. "Vyn Crystal extract," she said. "From your burger stash. It'll stabilize her." Max nodded, injecting the dose into Sylara's arm. Her patterns flared, her breathing steadying. "You're gonna make it, Sparkplug," Max said, his voice thick with relief. But alarm still blared. Voss checked her pad, frowning. "Varkus escaped the colony," she said. "He's still out there." Max clenched his fists, knowing the broker wouldn't stop. They evacuated to a safe zone, the core and data chip secure. Sylara gripped Max's hand, her eyes fierce. "We will find him," she vowed. Who was pulling Varkis's strings? Would Sylara recover fully, or had the crystal pushed her too far? And how long could they outrun the broker's vengeance? The Midnight Runner cruised through the inky expanse of deep space, its hull reflecting the faint shimmer of distant stars. Inside the bridge, the soft strum of Guns N' Roses' Sweet Child O' Mine filled the air, courtesy of Rocker, the ship's rock-obsessed AI. Max Carter leaned back in the pilot's chair, his boots propped on the console, a rare grin softening his rugged features. The energy core and Dr. Voss's data chip, now safely delivered to Alliance authorities, were out of their hands. Saturn colony was secure, Varkis's planet-killer weapon disabled, but the broker himself remained a shadow, slipping away to plot another day. Sylara sat at a small table near the galley, her silver skin glowing faintly under the bridge's warm lights. Her arm, bandaged but healing, moved carefully as she fiddled with a knife and a cutting board. A half-peeled onion sat before her, its pungent scent filling the air. "This task is inefficient," she said, her violet eyes narrowing as she sliced awkwardly with her claws. Max chuckled, crossing to her side. "You're mangling it. Sparkplug. Here, let me show you." He took the knife, demonstrating a smooth chop. "Burgers gotta have fresh onions. It's the law." Sylara tilted her head, her green hair floating gently. "Your Earth laws are strange," she said. But a faint smile curved her lips. Max handed her the knife back, watching as she tried again, her claws sparking lightly against the blade. "Not bad," he said, nodding approval. "You'll be a burger chef yet." Sylara's ears perked, a flicker of pride in her gaze. The moment felt light, a stark contrast to the chaos of Saturn colony. Max returned to the console, checking the ship's course. Dr. Voss had promised protection from Varkis's retaliation, but Max knew better than to trust Alliance bureaucracy. The broker was out there, licking his wounds, and men like him didn't forget. Sylara set the knife down, her expression turning serious. "Guide," she said, using the title with a warmth Max hadn't noticed before. "Varkis will return. His ambition burns too brightly." "Yeah," Max said, his grin fading. "Guys like him always do. But we kicked his ass once. We'll do it again." Sylara nodded, her patterns pulsing steadily. "I will stay with you," she said, her voice firm. "Not because of the Vyn Crystal or duty, but because I choose to. You gave me purpose." Max met her gaze, feeling a warmth in his chest. "You're not so bad yourself, Sparkplug," he said, his tone soft. "Guess we make a decent team." Sylara stood, crossing to the view screen, her silver dress replaced with a practical jumpsuit that still shimmered faintly. "Where do we go now?" she asked, staring at the starfield. Max joined her, hands in his pockets. "Anywhere we want," he said. "Got a few leads on some cargo runs, maybe some intel on Varkis's next move. You in?" Sylara turned, her violet eyes bright with resolve. "As long as there are burgers, I am ready." Max laughed, the sound echoing in the bridge. "Deal," he said, clapping her shoulder. He moved to the galley, pulling out a skillet and a pack of ground beef. "Let's make one now. You handle the onions, I'll grill." Sylara nodded, picking up the knife with renewed focus, though her claws still sparked against the cutting board. Max shook his head, grinning. "Don't fry the kitchen, all right?" As the sizzle of beef filled the air, Max felt a shift. He'd spent years running solo, dodging trouble. But now he had a partner, a glowing, spark-throwing Vynari warrior who'd fought beside him and nearly died for him. The road ahead was dangerous, with Varkis lurking and new threats on the horizon. But for the first time in years, Max didn't feel alone. "Ready for the next ride, Sparkplug?" he asked, flipping a patty with a flourish. Sylara looked up, her smile fierce and bright. "With you, guide?" "Always." The Midnight Runner soared on, stars streaking past, carrying two outcasts toward whatever the galaxy had in store. What would Varkis's next scheme be? And who else was backing him? Would Max and Sylara's bond hold against the trials ahead? And where would their next adventure lead? With burgers and battles waiting in the stars.